In the quiet town of Iverley, nestled between emerald hills and cloaked in morning mists, there was a lake no one swam in, no boats crossed, and no fish were ever caught. It was simply called Mirror Lake, for it was always still, its surface never rippled, not even during storms. The townsfolk left it alone, as if by instinct. But one teenager, Elia Wren, couldn't. Elia had grown up with stories. Her grandfather, once a professor of ancient languages, used to sit by the fire and tell her tales about hidden doors in the world, portals to forgotten places. He said most people stopped seeing them when they grew up, but they were still there, waiting. She thought they were just stories. Until the night the moon vanished. It was the summer solstice, and Elia had snuck out of her house to photograph the stars. But when she reached the clearing near Mirror Lake, the moon, clear and full just moments before, was gone. Not clouded, not eclipsed, gone. And the lake had changed. It shimmered with a faint silver light. Not reflected moonlight, something else. It pulsed softly like a living thing. Elia stepped closer. Her camera beeped as it tried to focus on the shifting glow. Then her foot caught something, stone. Flat, ancient, and carved with symbols that glowed faintly when she touched them. It wasn't a rock. It was a door. By dawn, Elia had returned with ropes, gloves, and her best friend Micah, who was always up for trouble. He was the kind of person who once tried to build a zip line off the school roof. Naturally, he believed her immediately. They followed the symbols, which led to a half-submerged ruin beneath the lake's northern edge. What looked like a mound of rocks and weeds was actually an old stone staircase, leading underwater. But when they stepped onto the first stair, the water parted around them like a curtain of glass. Dry, breathable, and silent. They descended for what felt like hours. At the bottom was a massive archway carved into the lakebed. As they approached, it lit up with a ring of softly glowing runes. The door creaked open. Beyond it was a library. But this was no ordinary library. It stretched in all directions, far larger than the lake above could ever contain. Endless rows of shelves spiraled upward and downward, seemingly weightless. Books floated through the air on their own, some bound in glass, others made of metal or shimmering leaves. The air smelled like old ink and starlight. A figure appeared, a tall woman in silver robes, with eyes like hourglasses. "Welcome to the Archivium," she said. "The Library of Forgotten Knowledge." The Archivium, as they learned, was a timeless vault where the world's lost ideas, vanished civilizations, and erased histories were preserved. Created by a group of ancient scholars called the Custodians, it existed outside the flow of time, hidden from the world so that dangerous knowledge wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. But something was wrong. "We are dying," the woman said. "A corruption is spreading through the shelves. Books are vanishing, turning to dust mid-sentence. Concepts themselves are being unmade." Elia asked why. "Because someone is stealing them." A rogue custodian, exiled centuries ago, had found a way to return, and he was rewriting reality. By destroying certain books, ones that held the foundations of ideas, technologies, languages, he was erasing them from history altogether. No one would remember they ever existed. The moon had vanished because its origin story had been erased. Elia and Micah were given a task: to retrieve 3 lost texts that had been stolen from the heart of the Archivium, books that held the roots of memory, identity, and reality. Their journey took them across strange realms accessed through doors hidden in everyday places. Through a grandfather clock in an abandoned mansion, they entered the realm of echoes, where sound became solid and silence could trap you forever. In the catacombs beneath an old cathedral, they found the Library of Names, where every person's true name was inscribed. A creature made of forgotten names tried to devour theirs, and atop a sky island only accessible during thunderstorms, they entered a storm archive, where thought and lightning were the same. Each realm tested them, not just physically but mentally. The Archivium didn't just store knowledge. It tested your worthiness to understand it. Along the way, Elia began to remember dreams she'd had as a child, symbols, voices, and faces she'd never met. The Archivium was triggering old, ancestral memories. She realized something stunning. Her grandfather hadn't just known about the Archivium. He'd been a custodian, and he had sealed away something dark inside himself, the final page of a forbidden book that the rogue custodian now needed. The rogue's name was Valtaire, and he wasn't trying to destroy the world. He was trying to rewrite it, to create a version of history where he was never exiled, where he was the author of reality. In the final confrontation, Elia found herself standing in the scriptorium, the heart of the Archivium, where all new books were born. Valtaire stood before the Codex Primordium, a book that wrote itself in real time, shaping the world above. He had the ink, the quill, and her grandfather's memory fragment. "Reality is only a story," he said. "I'm just giving it a better ending." Elia disagreed. "No story is worth telling if it erases someone else's." Using a trick she learned in the realm of echoes, she whispered her true name, disrupting the codex long enough to swap Valtaire's ink with a blank, memoryless one. His words vanished as he wrote them, erased even from his own mind. And as he faded, so did the corruption. Elia returned to Iverly changed. The moon reappeared. People who had forgotten entire parts of themselves suddenly remembered old songs, childhood dreams, and inventions that never made it past the prototype stage. But Elia never spoke of the Archivium again. Until the night a letter appeared on her windowsill, sealed with a silver rune. It read, "The next chapter awaits. The world still forgets. We still remember. The custodians." And beneath that, in her grandfather's handwriting, "There's more than one library beneath the lake." A year had passed since Elia Wren saved the Archivium. Iverly remained as quiet as ever, too quiet at times. Mirror Lake still shimmered silver when the moon was full, and sometimes, late at night, lights could be seen beneath the surface. Locals called them reflections. Elia knew better. She'd grown. Not just taller or older, but deeper, like a well that had found its bottom and then kept going. She and Micah never spoke of the Archivium out loud. It was a silent bond between them, like a shared dream that neither wanted to break by naming. But occasionally, when they passed the lake or saw an oddly shaped door, they'd exchange a glance that said everything. Then, one cold morning in late autumn, a package arrived on Elia's doorstep. No name, no return address, just a simple brown wrapping, tied with a thread that shimmered in colors the eye couldn't quite settle on. She brought it to her room, closed the door, and sat cross-legged on the floor. Inside was a book. But not just any book. It was her book. Bound in midnight blue leather, it bore a title stamped in faint silver. "The Library Beneath the Lake," as witnessed by Elia Wren. The author line simply read, "Written by the world." She opened it, heart pounding. The first chapter detailed the night the moon vanished. The next described the stairs, the door, the woman with hourglass eyes. Page after page, it told her story exactly as it happened, even things she had never spoken aloud. But then, halfway through, the ink changed. A new chapter began. It described things that hadn't happened yet, places she hadn't been, names she didn't recognize, and an Archivium fractured across multiple realities. A war between memory and oblivion. A girl lost between timelines. And then a final, handwritten line at the bottom of the page. "This time, you won't be alone." Elia looked up. On her windowsill, the silver-sealed letter was back, exactly as it had arrived the first time. But this one pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. She took a deep breath. The Archivium was calling again, and she would answer. Long after Elia closed the mysterious book, Mirror Lake remained perfectly still, reflecting the stars like a dark glass mirror. But beneath its surface, something stirred. A shadow moved among the ancient shelves of the submerged Archivium. A whisper, carried on currents no one could see, murmured in a language forgotten by time. "The story is never finished, only paused." And somewhere, deep in the quiet dark, A single page fluttered open, blank, waiting.